This is your favorite Foxy writer, Brandy Ackerley, coming to you today with my latest episode of Behind the Pen, which this week is focused on stuff with the pen, but still very, very important. Why, you ask? Well, When Words Collide is right around the corner. WWC happens every year in Calgary, usually in the second weekend of August. It's a writers' conference that I've been attending for the last 8 years or so. It's a smaller affair than others I've attended, but a really good conference. More devoted to the writers than to the readers. Though if you're a huge reader, there are always more than a few events focused for you specifically. Usually authors doing readings of new books, or others celebrating new releases, or even just chatting about their books with their readers. Of course, every year there is also a full author signing event. I got to take part in that back in 2017. No, not 2017, 2018. And yeah, nearly every published author gets a place at their tables and can sign any books that you may want to get signed. Or at least it did. Last year was the first year since its inception that they weren't able to hold the event. Instead, they had many of the same authors jump in and give the same talks that they would have done, but online instead. And also made the online-only event free to attend. While it was awesome, they were kind of hoping that this year would see the world back to normal enough to run the in-person event again. Unfortunately, that did not happen. But they are awesome enough to be throwing the online event again. And it's for free again, in case you've been wanting to attend but had never gotten a chance to. I'm including the link below, but I'm going to put it here on the TV for you to write down just in case you prefer that. A year or two before I published Hunter's Gambit, I started taking part in the panels. And I was even more excited to be able to have my novel out for everybody when that came out. I really missed presenting digitally last year. But this year I'm back in the saddle, so to speak. I'm going to be taking part in 3 panels, and in a terrifying move, doing my first solo presentation. Today, I want to let you know what those are, and what times they'll be on, in case you have an interest in writing, and want to sit in on the panels, and want to see who else is presenting with me. I guarantee that a lot of great authors, editors, publishers, and everything else in between will be at the event, period. Not just on mine, like everything is going to be awesome. So, my first panel I'll be involved in is going to be on Friday at 3 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, MDT. This panel, titled I Don't Belong Here, is all about imposter syndrome and how to deal with it so that it won't stop you from achieving your dreams. On this panel with me will be the amazing Mark Leslie and Sarah Cades Graham, and, of course, a favorite author of mine, Laura Van Andronk-Bow. If you aren't already readers of these authors' books, get started on them. All of them are amazing. Now, according to the description of the actual panel, imposter syndrome, the conviction that we're untalented, underqualified, and undeserving, afflicts writers at every stage of their careers, from putting the fear of words to the page, to submitting work, to publishers, to living up to the heights of success. Where does it come from? What can we do to overcome it? Is it ever helpful? Now, most writers I know are afflicted with imposter syndrome on some level. If you're not, you have no idea how much I envy you. For me, the very idea of being even on this panel left me going, maybe I should leave this to somebody who knows more about imposter syndrome? I mean, certainly there must be authors out there with way more knowledge than I have on this. Really, how qualified am I to talk about this? How arrogant am I going to sound doing so? I mean, look at the other authors that I'll be talking beside. Can I really stand beside them and sound like I know what I'm talking about? Will everyone realize I'm just faking it? It was around that last line that reminded me that I have imposter syndrome. And as you can see, I have it pretty bad. Or at least, I think I have it pretty bad. Since I have to constantly push past it to publish everything from books to blog posts to videos, I am definitely qualified to discuss this though. And the fact that I have been researching this topic further than that, taken workshops on how to move past it, I definitely feel like that adds another layer of qualifications for me. Imposter syndrome really is one of the silent killers, I find. It stops most people from ever trying to write their novels or going out and doing what they want to do. But I mean, it can affect literally anyone in any position, creative or not. CEOs have been known to have imposter syndrome. So if you have the time, and especially if my little thought process a couple of moments before made you feel a bit called out, stop by and give it a listen. Again, that panel will be starting at 3 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time on Friday, August 13th. Coming after that is my first solo presentation at 6 p.m. and is Aphantasia for the author/artist. You've probably heard about Aphantasia on Facebook or whatever social media site you hang out on. It pops up every 2 to 3 years, I find, since somebody realized it was like still a thing back in 2015. Kinda, they first figured it out in like the 1800s. More on that in my presentation. I plan to give a little bit on the history. Aphantasia is the proper term for people who can't visualize in their minds. Essentially, our mind's eye doesn't work. As you can imagine, in a job like mine, where I actually have to describe things well enough that you can read the words and see it yourself, not being able to see it myself can be a real pain. I'll spare you my description from the event since I wrote it, and it's really just a more put-together version of what I said, like, just a second ago. I will add in that my final line of that description does make me smile every time I read it, though. Come, and we'll talk about how to help you describe something you can't see, but your reader must. It's poetic and descriptive, and I love it. At any rate, this disability, like most mental disabilities, tend to go ignored for most people. They just don't even realize they have it. It's really hard for humans to miss something, especially if you've never experienced it and so don't realize you actually are missing anything. For me, I didn't realize that others could actually see things in their minds until I found a video about an artist talking about it and was like, wait, other people actually can see that? I mean, it isn't like a metaphor? Well, maybe I'm overthinking it a bit. I mean, I can see pictures, right? I'm not different. Then I realized, no, it's one of the reasons I like music so much. Music can almost transport me enough that I can daydream and almost see something. You know, not enough to actually have a vision or anything, but just enough to know what I'm missing. So, having then done a fuck ton of research on Aphantasia and gotten many comments from readers about how incredible the descriptions in my book are, I figured I was uniquely qualified to talk about it, and to give some advice on how to combat it if you have it. Again, Aphantasia for the author/artist will be at 6 p.m. on Friday, August 13th. After that presentation, I will have all of Saturday to relax and hang out in the other presentations and panels. You will find me hanging around in pretty much one of these all day. Although exactly which ones, I'm not certain yet. Oh, there are so many good-looking ones. Oh, I hope they, post all of them later, because there are a few where I know I won't be able to go to all of them. Oh, I really hope they record all of them for later. I will definitely be about for most of the panels, and most of the video conferencing after the main events are finished each evening, especially the ones on Friday and Saturday, because those ones are the ones everybody shows up for. On Sunday, of course, it will be back to the grind. Super early in the morning for a night owl like me. I will be doing a panel then on crafting fantasy from myth. This is something that nearly every author, I feel, needs to do to some extent, although many don't take it quite as liberally from real-world examples and myth as I and some other authors do. From the description, myths, legends, and folklore are great sources of inspiration for fantasy writers. You might set out to retell the old story, or seek to blend them with original material, but how do you do it well? This panel will discuss how to create a rich and engaging fantasy sourced from myth. Personally, even when I was just a kid, I was fascinated by mythology and folklore. Urban legends, often just retelling of things that happened in myth, and folklore with a modern bent, were some of my favorite things to research. And research I did, starting with every book on mythological creatures I could find at my local library, and then I moved on to books telling me, like, the great stories about the Greek and Roman gods, which led to me looking into books on other deities around the world, and from there to the cultures that they came from. I have read, I can say, at least a little something from most mythologies around the world. I have tried to even do some, like, searching into the small ones, although I usually don't do quite as much into those unless I'm really interested. And if you've read my books, you know that I borrow quite heavily from those cultures, often using those stories and characters for inspiration, updated and changed from their original short fables to something that is all mine. I won't be doing this panel alone, though. I will be sharing the stage with Calvin D. Jim, Swati Shava, and Amanda Witto. All very, very knowledgeable authors, especially on this topic. I can't wait to have this discussion, especially, like, this one looks awesome. Of course, I did mention this panel will be happening bright and early in the morning, a 10 a.m. start on Sunday, August 15th. Join us for this engaging conversation. Directly after that panel finishes, like directly at 11 a.m., I will be running away to attend my final panel of the weekend. Exploring the YA dark side, dark fantasy versus horror. If you remember my short story, Faded, that I published in October of 2017, you'll know why I jumped at the chance to be on this panel. Even if YA specifically isn't the genre I usually end up reading. From the description, The Hazelwood, Children of Blood and Bone, and The Cruel Prince are a few examples of dark atmospheric YA novels making the bestsellers list. But dark fantasy isn't simply code for horror. Join these panelists as they discuss what characteristics both distinguish and unite these two subgenres when YA writers explore the dark side. The first novel I started writing in NaNoWriMo was actually a YA dark fantasy. And even if it isn't up to being published yet, I still hope to edit and release it one day. Not only that, but I mean the distinction between both dark fantasy and horror is really interesting, especially since they both share so many characteristics, while still definitely being different enough to demand a genre, like noting the genre difference. So, if you like living a bit on the dark side, whichever one you prefer, come by and find out more about these two genres. For this panel, I will have the esteemed company of Rhonda Parrish, Jenna Green, and Elizabeth Witten with me. And I can't wait to see what they all think about this topic. And that is the last panel I will be on. For anyone hoping to find me during the weekend, expect to see me on Twitter talking about the panels I'm in and chatting with the other attendees. I will try to put out a full list on Thursday of the panels I'll be attending, in case you want to join me for any of them, although it might end up being Friday morning. Either way, I will try to give you at least like 5 to 10 minutes of warning before each panel to say which one I'm attending next on Twitter. Of course, if you want to chat with me during the day, I'll be taking part in the after hours events as well. You'll be able to find me on Twitter. Either way, I can't wait for it. I can't wait for it. And that's going to be all for today. Let me know in the comments if you'll be attending, and I really hope to see some of you there next weekend, okay? I'll see you later.